And now we finally extract revenge for those NPCs who are actually really awesome. Now, I've actually planned this out quite carefully. So, I need to weaken this guy quite significantly, but make sure that Yohalva deals the final blow. In fact, when I was thinking about this, I actually remembered, back in Chapter 2, it's quite similar to the situation I had with Volts, where I had to weaken him and make sure that Lachesis finished him off. In this case, though, it's a little easier because Yohalva is significantly stronger than Lachesis was, so there's no risk leaving him out in the open. Still, the problem is, Yohalva, using axes has a tendency to miss a bit, and if he does, it's generally pretty bad. So, I'm not going to lie to you, this section involved quite a bit of resetting. Wow, that was quite a lot of experience. Yeah. I was actually hoping for a looter there. Probably wouldn't have done that much. Right, not quite enough. But I think Oife would be able to weaken him a bit more. No, Javelin, definitely not Javelin. Wonder if I was... See, Oife does have critical. And I am pretty certain, maybe we'll find out a bit later, but... I know that in Sacred Stones, Armor Slayers are effective against Great Knights because they're considered an armoured class. Yeah. In this game, not so much. Iron Cutter, yeah, not really all that good against Great Knights. At least, I think he's certainly been weakened enough. And by the way, I have absolutely no reservations about not attacking the regular Axe Knights, because these guys are an absolute joke without their leader. Like, seriously, and they're already pretty much a joke now. Now, just for the last about 30 seconds or so, there was actually a huge amount of footage I actually had to cut out because... well, I think I'm going to upload it in like a blooper reel because, yeah, I had to reset quite a lot when dealing with this guy. I mean, things do go smoothly here, but before this, I had some serious problems. Right, now I can finally have this guy using a good axe. Possibly the only good axe in this game. And yes, that is, as you'll see there, yep, it's kept its kill count. That is Lex's hero axe from the first generation. And the reason why you actually get it off a drop from that guy is because Lex's weapons, or indeed any axes at all, can't be inherited, because none of the second generation children can use them in their starting class. There are one or two children that gain the ability to use axes on promotion, but you've got to be able to use them in your starting class in order to inherit them. There's one other weapon in the game that you'll be seeing in Chapter 7 that's also subject to this. It can't possibly be inherited, so you just get it off a random enemy. Well, actually not random enemy, a boss, but... and in fact, quite the opposite of a random enemy, actually, but, I shouldn't really ramble on about that now. And by the way, right here, it looks like Oifei's in serious danger. He's not. At all. If you read the combat stats, you'll notice that these Axe Knights have an attack of 20. Oife has a defense of 17, so he's only going to be taking 3 damage. Granted, he's only on 6 HP, but because of these guys' low hit rates, I'm confident that it's pretty unlikely he'll get hit by 2 of them. And this is one of the few cases where saying that out loud actually caused it to not happen. In fact, I think it's actually quite a good thing that he's acting as a bit of a magnet for... Because there's a couple of other people, like, Julia, even though she can't permanently die, but I really don't want to lose her for the rest of the chapter, because there's an important event coming up. Right, now Arthur and Fee are finally in a position to actually affect the battles. Which is certainly really good. Yeah, see, one of the good points of getting stalled by Shmidt is it does give time for Arthur and Fee to catch up with everyone else. Yes, now prepare to be amazed by just how much better Arthur is than Azel. I mean, Azel wasn't really all that terrible, he was just pretty mediocre all round. Arthur, quite the opposite. Fee's been damaged a little bit, but... yeah, that critical skill from Levin actually comes in handy. Of course, in one of the, well, other semi-popular pairings for her, pairing Fury and Noise, she'll also get critical. But in that case, she misses out on continue in her first stage. She will gain continue on promotion, but I actually find it's actually kind of helpful to have continue, even unpromoted, because for me, she just tends to activate it quite a lot, probably because its activation rate is based on speed, and, well, that was something both her parents excelled in. Right, yeah, as I said before, finally, he could be using a good axe. That's why, yeah, it's a good idea to make sure that your axe brother finishes off, I'm just going to refer to them as the Axe Brothers from now on, to, you know, collectively refer to Johann and Johalva, because it tends to vary based on taste. Really, I mean, both of them are far from the best characters in the second generation, so it's really all a matter of personal opinion, who you want to go with. However, I may have hinted before that the choice actually relates to another one or the other decision you'll have a bit later in this chapter, and this one is really important. And unlike the Johann and Johalva thing, actually pretty much no contest. There is one option that is totally superior in every way to the other. Now, I think someone's going to have to double back and rescue the village. And, yeah, now that guy is no threat at all, so I can just... I don't know why I'm just leaving him there, but it's not going to be, that bad. Well, certainly higher priority to heal Oife now, but, yeah, and just like always, you can get cheap experience by healing NPCs. Of course, Julia is in fact a, well, she doesn't have that much access to good stuff at this point, but she is a pretty freakishly good healer considering the fact that she has, her magic growth is 100%. Yes, Naga and Falar blood is actually quite a good combination. Which is a little ironic considering that, she was the result of, well... I'm not sure if this qualifies as a spoiler at this point, because it's pretty obvious. Admittedly, both her parents weren't aware they were half-siblings, but... Anyway, I don't know why this suddenly just came into my head then, but I think I mentioned earlier about continuous activation rate being based on speed. Now, I'm not sure if I said this before, but I've read about a weird glitch. I'd probably have to start a new game in order to actually, test this. But if the activation rate for continue is ever negative, the game will freeze whenever the character attacks. Which usually won't happen unless the character has really, really low speed and is holding a broken weapon. Which, like I said, you gotta have, like, Forgive me for the random insult while he's not actually here. Arden-style speed in order to do that freeze. Right, now, yes, those two are finally caught up, and I'll just say this now, the rest of the chapter is just absolutely pathetic. There's really just nothing much left, except just one Axe Knight guarding that castle, and Danon, who, as you'll see later, is a bit of a joke. But now is a good time to gain experience for Julia by healing people. This will actually help her out in the long run. You see, Deirdre wasn't even around long enough to make herself useful as a semi-backup healer. But at least Julia does that pretty well. Okay, now the rest of this chapter is pretty much just comprised of various conversations. And yes, this village has a skill ring, and that's the reason why I left it for later. And yeah, I like giving it to axe users, because it helps their low hit rate. In fact, speaking of axe users, I was going to say earlier that axe users really didn't become all that prominent in the Fire Emblem series until probably Fire Emblem 6. Because, I mean, in this one you've got really the hero axe being the only one worth using, and very few actual axe users per generation. Then you had Fire Emblem 3, where in Book 2, you got absolutely no axe users at all. I'm glad they fixed that for the remake. And yeah, here's a conversation here between Arthur and Celice. Just, you know, gives a bit of backstory on why these guys are joining the army. And yeah, they'll make it obvious who their parents were. Well, mothers. So I said that they deliberately leave it ambiguous as to who their father was, except for one particular case. Of course, yes, her mother being Fury. Yes, so, as she would have mentioned in the conversation that, accidentally got cut because for some reason I lost the recording, Fee is searching for her brother, which gives her something in common with Arthur, because Arthur is also searching for his sister. Because they kind of got separated after the first generation. There's a bit of backstory designer's notes. Teltu's children both grew up in Celice. Well, at least Arthur did. That's how he came to know Fee, of course. And, well, then something kind of happened, which we'll find out a bit more about in Chapter 7. Let's just say, not everyone who survived the Battle of Bahara, or should I say, just because you survived the Battle of Bahara, doesn't mean you're going to end up happy. That's all I'll say for this point. Right, now, the next part should probably be the last for this chapter. Of course, Danon being all the way over there, it'll mostly be just walking there. But still, right, see you then.